up to this point of the year, I've got over 6 figures surplus growth in my brokerage account. And one of the big factors I wanted to bring up is there was a stock in the fall. I met with a couple financial consultants. I met with an actual investor, and a licensed investor, and I was trying to figure out what should I be doing with everything. I have my financial I's, my financial T's lined up. I have all these thoughts. And I remember bringing up to this individual, hey, there's a stock I want to invest in. It's been beaten down a little bit. It's got low sentiment, and I want to put some money into it. He said, that's a risky one. They're facing some litigation of an antitrust issue. We don't know what's going to end up happening. It seems like ChatGPT is just absolutely destroying this. They're trying to get into a couple other spaces that might not be the best. It seems like their model, their business model, it's just not that good. And so, I took that to heart, and I went back and okay, I'm going to think through this a little bit more. I'm walking around right here on my 25-acre little farmette that we've got, and I'm trying to think through all this stuff. And this is literally what I was doing on, after I met with this one guy, and he said all this. And then I started to think through a couple different other financial investors that I had met with and what they were saying about this same stock. And so I didn't really do anything until April. Okay, so I bought a little bit of this stock in April. And since April, I want to say I'm up like 18%, like not a ton, but 10K, 12K increase in that stock. I'm up, I have a decent amount on the green. And I started to think through a couple different factors around this. And the first one is that when we're looking at a stock, Alphabet, in this case, Google, I wanted to share that with you. I want to walk through all the different factors of why I think it's a good stock, why I want to continue to invest in it, and even why I bought some this morning. Okay, so I was actually thinking through this. I'm like, this is something I should be sharing. If I can go through why I'm purchasing this and justify it for myself, that's going to be valuable to someone out there, if they need some type of thought process to roll through. And for me, the first step that I took was I just got back from Colombia, okay? So while I was in Colombia on business, and I have a whole nother thing I want to share about Colombia with stable coins and even getting into some e-commerce discussion, but that's going to be for a whole nother video. Let me know. Comment, please like, subscribe. Make sure you share this one with somebody out there who might benefit from this. Is that when I was down there, I wanted to look for a specific place to eat. Okay, so what did I do? I actually pulled up maps. And I pull up Google Maps. And the irony behind Google Maps is that I actually operate on iOS, okay? I want to say Android controls like 60 to 70% of the cell phone market, which is a whole nother factor. So I'm going to actually go into that, is that until, let's say, the Meta Ray-Bans become like a fully adopted thing, and we're actually living in augmented reality, and we have glasses to control things, and we don't need a screen like a cell phone on a regular basis. Until that gets disrupted, Android, iOS are going to control that market. And that's how I like to think about with Alphabet, is I want to look at every single specific part of their business, and then I want to look at what's the odds of that disruption happening to the business. But then on top of that, what's the odds of them being disrupted in the market and not adapting and not pivoting themselves as a company? And so looking at Android, looking at iOS, but in this case, because we're talking about Alphabet, Android, do we really think, let's say in 10 years, that we are actually using glasses and we're not using cell phones? Do we think that Alphabet wouldn't have adapted to that? Do we think that they wouldn't come up with some type of version of their own to integrate into their system? Do we think that they wouldn't pivot effectively? No, I don't think so. But then on top of that, we also know that they control a massive amount. When I was in Colombia, everybody's running on Android. And that's basically how all of South America is. There's not a lot of people running on iOS. They're mainly in the rest of the world running on Android. And we've got to recognize that. So that was one thing moving off of that is mobile device. They've got pretty good control. Now, going back to the maps discussion, I started to think through, okay, I wanted to go find a place to eat. When I have this when I go on business trips, I have these goals of like, I love Indian food. I want to eat Indian food in every single country that I travel to in the entire world. I've been on every single continent. In the next 6 weeks, I'm going to be going to Paraguay. I'm going to be going to Switzerland. I'm going to be going to Oregon again. I'm going to be going to Tokyo. Okay, that's all happening in the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So I like to have Indian food, right? And so I looked on maps of all places. I was like, okay, I'm just going to look for some decent place to get food here. Now, when I was down there, okay, I'm using maps. This is basically controlled by Google, right? So they offer maps. They have great maps system, and you can use maps on your iOS, but I tend to use the Google Maps system. Is that going to be disrupted? Probably not. Is that actually going to be something that they might pivot more into and make more money off of? Yes, and we're going to get to that a little bit later in this discussion while I start to think through all these things. Okay, and just remember, I'm up 15-20% since April investment into Alphabet, and that's why I'm trying to work through all this different stuff. Is like, why should I continue to invest more into this beaten down stock that's been sort of hovering around 190? Year to date, it's down like 12%, I want to say 15% maybe. So it's the sentiment's not there right now. But I have talked about in previous videos, I like beaten down dogs, right? So we got to think through this. Now, the next thing, okay, so we talked about maps. We went a little bit into Android, the mobile system, and versus the iOS, and we even long-term play what's going to happen with that. Then the next thing, when I was down there, and if I'm going to another country, I actually like to do my search, typically if I'm on my cell phone, on Google Chrome. So if we're using Google Chrome, okay, this controls about 65% of browser-based search, browser-based activity. Okay, so now let's think about this. They've got my search intent on maps. They've got my search intent of what I'm Googling when I'm just hanging out in the hotel, or when I'm going to a meeting, or when I'm going to wherever it is that I might be going. They have all that intent. They have all the purpose of what I'm looking for. They start to see, okay, this dude likes to do specific things. He likes, he likes Indian food. He likes to read about training. He likes to read about finance. This is what he's interested in. Let's find a local network or something that we can use for him, because they have my intent from Chrome. Do we think Chrome is going to be disrupted? I would argue it's been disrupted. I would argue it's seen some drop off because of things like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Copilot, things like that, right? So we've seen that happen. Is it going to completely disappear? I would say no. And also, have they adapted? Yes, they've adapted. And they've adapted with Gemini. Okay, so that's going to take us into the actual generative chatbots, the AI chatbots, right? So now we're looking at Gemini. And when Gemini first came out, people were complaining about it. I'm like, it's not that good, blah, blah, blah. DeepSeek's way better. I like to use DeepSeek early on. I like to use ChatGPT. I am a ChatGPT subscriber, okay? I have a subscription to ChatGPT. I roll with it. I like it quite a bit. I use it way more now than I did when I was using more of DeepSeek. But guess what? Yesterday, we had a meeting, business meeting, and during the business meeting, I was using Gemini. And then I started to look at it, and I'm seeing Gemini has grown substantially in the space. And I've even talked about it having 400 million users. This was like a month ago. Now it's up over like 450, if I remember from the most recent article that I read. So now we're looking at, okay, will they unseat ChatGPT? Not likely, especially not in the next 5 years or in the next 2 years. But guess what? They're currently behind Copilot for Microsoft. And you want to know what I'm going to predict is that by the end of the year, 2025, they're going to overtake Copilot. They're going to have more users on Gemini than Microsoft does. So they're figuring out this space. They're very, very good at taking something and rolling with it. And then I just listened to a CNBC discussion where a guy's like, well, that's great, but how are they going to capitalize on all this stuff? How are they going to have some type of financial earnings? And I want to go into, from Gemini, okay, I'm going to go into YouTube, okay? So they control YouTube, right? Long form media. And in my other business, I have a YouTube channel that's got, 650,000 subscribers. And on that, a lot of our business comes from people who watch YouTube videos where we talk. We might have a 10 to 30 minute YouTube video. We might have an hour and a half long video on training. And what's interesting is that long form content rules. People like it. They get to know you. They enjoy you. They enjoy your perspective. They enjoy your personality. They like to ask you more questions. It's more engaging. It's more interactive. It's an active, passive at times form of content. And YouTube, which is owned by Google, was purchased in 2006 for like $1.6 billion. And in a couple years, it's going to be making $100+ billion. Right now, I want to say it's just over 50 billion from what I remember seeing. And we can start to think through. I watched some YouTube videos. I did a Google search on Chrome. I was on Maps looking for food. Then when I'm on Maps looking for food, I also happened to search some stuff on Gemini. And while I'm going through that, I'm running some stuff with meetings back in the United States on a workspace, on Google Workspace. And this takes us into the space of like Google Cloud. Okay, so Google Cloud is up every quarter by like 25% growth right now. It's continuously driving them more growth. It's accelerating at a higher profit margin. So now we're starting to see, okay, the Google Cloud intermixed with YouTube, which is not going to be unseated, long form content rules. And they've even gone with YouTube into short form. And everybody thought, during short form is going to kill them. And it did suck for a while, but now shorts are performing way better. And they're even lengthening the timeline of shorts. So we're seeing engagement from people there. They can get data and feedback on that information, okay? Then they know what we're doing in Gemini. We search for something in Gemini, and you get Gemini's response as a chat, as though someone's talking to you. Hey, this is answering your question directly. But here's some resources, because guess what? When we talk to somebody, we want to make sure that they know what they're doing. And we like citations. We like them telling us, this is where I got my information from. Gemini's no different. DeepSeek, no different. ChatGPT, we want to know where they're getting their information from, and they will provide those citations, especially if prompted. And Gemini on the side is then providing, okay, here's some factors, this is where we pulled this information. Let's say they pull it from a long form YouTube video. And then when they pull that from this long form YouTube video, now guess what happens is that they pull this, you go watch this long form YouTube video. And then when you watch the long form YouTube video, they get more watch time, blah, 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 everything starts rolling. And then finally, that takes us into Waymo. So this is all stemming back to this whole discussion with this guy was, now you shouldn't invest in Alphabet, okay? And I listened to him for quite a while because I wanted to make my own educated decision. And then I'm thinking through this and I'm going, I was in Austin, Texas. I've been in San Francisco. They've beaten out Lyft in San Francisco for more gross rides, total rides. They're probably going to overtake Uber in the next 2 to 3 years there. And then on top of that, we have to think about they're safer. The robo-taxi from Tesla is, I believe from what I last saw, is still using cameras and not LiDAR. Waymo is using LiDAR. They're losing money on Waymo right now, but they also know 5 to 10 years, Waymo is going to be a huge, big profit for them, because people, let's say you're traveling or you're just in an area, you can use Waymo. It uses a LiDAR system, and then it's spreading to all the major cities in the entire country by the end of 2029 into 2030. And then when you're in Waymo, you might, let's say, so you're using the Alphabet system, and when you're in there, they're saying, hey, these are your tendencies from your searches, from your Gemini discussions, from your YouTube algorithm, from what you looked at on Maps. What do you think? Do you need anything else? Do you need any food here? Do you need this here? This is what you might have interest in. And all of a sudden, this huge ecosystem of this crazy strong company is just like absolutely indestructible. And they make very good pivots. even when they're a beaten down stock, which is where they're at right now. And that's exactly why this morning I'm like, I've been looking at everything. They're trading at under a 20 forward PE. Their earnings per share are going to continue to rise. And so it's really one of those things right now. It's a safe play for me, and it's a safe play that I'm rolling with. And then I'm even thinking through personally on our end, like as a company, we stopped writing blogs, we stopped doing all this stuff, and we saw a drop off in Shopify traffic and stuff like that. And now we're back writing blogs, and we're seeing site traffic go up because Gemini and Chrome are integrated very, very well, and blogs aren't dead like we initially thought they would be because of ChatGPT. So all of these things and that going into the cloud, they're so well formatted for major companies, for small companies, for individuals. Okay, and it's a very strong company. That's what we're doing that with Alphabet, and I bought some shares this morning. I just wanted to share that. Hope that helps somebody out there. Until next time, peace.